We'll talk with Cassie Carlson, and we'll hear from offensive coordinator Declan Doyle. Portland Trailblazers head coach Chauncey Billups and Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier arrested, both part of illegal sports betting. Nick Costas tells us if legalized gambling is behind Rozier's actions. And part two of my conversation with former Bulls, Knicks, Raptors enforcer Charles Oakley. Oak always had Patrick Ewing's back in New York. Why hasn't Ewing helped Oakley in return? And why was Oak banned from Madison Square Garden? It's all now on Chicago Sports Tonight.
From Fox 32 Chicago Sports, this is Chicago Sports Tonight.
We welcome in Cassie Carlson from Hallis Hall to kick off the show tonight. Let's bring in Cassie. There she is. Cassie, the coordinators talked to the media today. Did Dennis Allen show any emotion, open up at all about the way his defense played against his former team, winning a game ball, or was Allen stone-faced and not willing to look back at the victory?
He really did not want to look back, and that's no surprise based on what we've come to learn about Dennis Allen. He did admit that it felt really good in the moment, but he said he's already turned his page onto Baltimore. And then when asked about the game ball, specifically getting it against his forward team, he was like, yeah, that was pretty cool. And then was like, next question. So Dennis Allen, not one to really look into the past. He is solely focused on this Ravens team that everyone is talking about, sitting at 1-5 right now, which comes off as a bit of a surprise. And the question mark around Lamar Jackson playing builds as we are now at Thursday, and he is a limited participant in practice yet again. And it seems like there's some questioning on if he's going to go, or because the Ravens play again on Thursday against Miami, if they're going to save him to return in that game. And that definitely changes the game plan when you're the Bears and looking at what this offense and Baltimore's offense can do with him on and off the field. But they are planning as if Lamar Jackson is going to be on the field Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, that was my next question. Did Allen lead on at all to tell the media they're planning as if he is playing or he isn't playing?
I mean, everyone we talked to, from Ben Johnson stating it yesterday, said that the game plan that they're working on is based off Lamar Jackson playing. And then Dennis Allen spoke about just how lethal he can be, both with his legs and his arms. He joked, I'd rather him just stand there in the pocket, but that's not going to be the case with Lamar Jackson because, you know, he might be, I guess, held back a little bit because he is dealing with a hamstring injury. So who knows how much he would be able to run, or if he would look like himself if he does go out there and play on Sunday. I think that's probably some of what the Ravens are working through right now. But he's like, it kind of creates a problem. You don't want to rush him because too hard, because then he can escape and throw the ball down the field. But he also has that arm that is so accurate and strong. So definitely that dual threat quarterback that this defense is going to have to worry about. And I think back to some of the quarterbacks that they've played already. And outside of Dak Prescott, if Lamar Jackson plays, probably the best quarterback they'll face all season so far.
Cassie, what's the plan if Tyreek Stevenson doesn't play?
I mean, there are so many question marks about this depleted secondary right now. The good thing, and it's something that Dennis Allen talked about way back in April and May, is that he wanted his defense to be versatile. And we're seeing some of that play out with just some of the schemes and the way he's having his guys line up. But without Tyreek Stevenson, you're probably looking at either a combination of Kyler Gordon playing outside corner, which we know Kyler Gordon can do, but I don't think he's done it since his rookie season when they were depleted again back then. Or you're looking at, you know, Josh Blackwell playing at the nickel position, which is so crucial in a modern day NFL to have a nickel who's able to not only play in the slot, but also stop the run. And stopping the run in particular against this Baltimore team and offense is going to be so crucial when you're going against Derrick Henry. And that's one of the big things that this defense is going to have to worry about, because we know the run defense was at one point the worst in the league, and they've shored it up over the last 2 weeks. But when you're going up against someone who is second in total rush yards just behind Saquon Barkley a year ago, they know that they need to get as many bodies around the ball. And as Dennis Allen said today, you want to take his pistols away from him. That's his legs. And everyone yesterday talking about him, Kevin Byard, who played with Derrick Henry in Tennessee, Jaquan Brisker, mentioned don't tackle him high, because then you're just going to be part of the highlight package of getting the stiff arm from Derrick Henry, and no one wants to be a part of that.
How is Dennis Allen's defense coming up with all these turnovers?
I mean, I think it's just emphasis on taking the ball away. He said every time that defense goes out there, they are hunting for takeaways, and it's not just turnovers that they're calling them takeaways. And basically, he said their sole focus, and he believes the sole job of the defense is to get the ball back and put this offense in good field position. And they're doing that right now with their 16 takeaways, 11 interceptions, their plus 11 in turnover differential, which leads the NFL.
Offensive coordinator Declan Doyle also spoke to the media. Let me break this down for you, because Ben Johnson said yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, they're having a real tough time feeding all these mouths, meaning getting the ball to all their playmakers. Caleb Williams, I saw, had 15 completions against the Saints, 17 at Washington. He's had over 20 completions just twice this season. How are they going to get the ball more to their playmakers?
Well, I thought Caleb Williams had an interesting answer when he was asked if he is conscious about all the quote-unquote mouths that he does have to feed on offense, because that's a term that Ben Johnson uses quite frequently. And Caleb Williams said no, he's actually not super conscious of it. He's just going through his progressions, and to him, it doesn't matter who his first, second, third read is. And his point being was, any of these weapons or mouths to feed that they're talking about are going to be happy with wins more so than targets, catches, and yards. So that was an interesting note from the quarterback, who says that he does not pay attention to who is getting the ball more frequently. It's all based off of progressions and who's his first read and so on and so forth. Now, I think Ben Johnson has a tough task to feed all the mouths and keep everyone happy. I do believe that winning does cure a lot of that, but there are a lot of players right now, and I think Colston Loveland is the #1 player that people are wondering, when is he going to have his moment and when is he going to get more involved? I think it's also the comparison between him and Tyler Warren as well. When Colston Loveland has just 8 catches for, I think, 78 yards, doesn't have a touchdown yet, and he was a top 10 pick, and you're wondering, when are we going to see why this guy was drafted and why Ben Johnson probably wanted to bring in this wide receiver type tight end to fit into the passing game and be a weapon for Caleb Williams? I think that's a big question mark right now. And Declan Doyle talked a little bit about it today, saying that they fully trust Colston Loveland, and a lot of it is game plan specific. And so we'll see with Cole Kmet's status going into this week if Colston Loveland gets more targets and he's more involved in the passing game. Caleb Williams did throw to him on a couple crucial downs in the Saints game last week. But Colston Loveland, as Ben Johnson said, is one of the more professional rookies that he's ever been around. He is in the building, working hard, studying the playbook. So I think there's a confidence in his ability right there, and they're starting to see him play with more confidence on the field. Now it's just a matter of if Caleb Williams can find Colston Loveland and find those receptions for him.
Ravens defense has been awful. How are the Bears going to cash in on that Baltimore D?
Yeah, I think that's something surprising about the Ravens defense when you look at it right now, though, because of the pieces they have on it with Roquan Smith, with Kyle Hamilton. And I remember a couple weeks ago, they had one of those injury reports that kind of goes viral because it was so long and both of those guys were on it. And so I think right now when you look at them being, I think, the 31st ranked defense, that's not typical of a Baltimore team. So I think it's finding those completions again and being smart with the way that Caleb Williams is throwing the ball. And I think it's going back to Caleb Williams showing that he can be this franchise quarterback. And I don't think you want to come out of this game, if you're the Bears or if you're a Bears fan, having question marks about the quarterback like we did coming out of the Saints game. I think you want to see steady growth from him, from what we saw last week where he admitted he didn't play a good game, to what we're going to see from him moving on in the future, where he can get through his progressions, he can find the checkdowns, and he can also be a threat with his legs. That's something that I asked Declan Doyle today about, building off of what Ben Johnson said about not wanting to neuter Caleb Williams' natural ability to feel out the pocket, know when to take off and know when to be Superman and run while also playing in system. And Declan Doyle kind of broke it down. Here's what he had to say about that balance.
It's a healthy balance. It's one of those things that I talk about all the time, but like each play is its own play. And so it's case by case. However, you want to try to give him some guidelines as far as, hey, you break contain. This is what we're thinking. This is what the plan of the receivers should be in order to create the correct spacing so that we're not running into each other, things like that. So they're really more contingency plans so that when that second act starts, he knows exactly where he needs to go with the football. You want to encourage him to be aggressive with it because he is very talented in that area. And yet at the same point in time, we want to make sure we're staying, on the rails or within the realm of, what we're asking of him and the wideouts as well.
So I think it's going to be interesting to see how much more we see from Caleb Williams trusting his own natural athletic ability and taking off and getting those yards compared to what we saw from that last week.
Injury list, anything we should talk about? Grady Jarrett, how does it look?
Grady Jarrett, the way he's talking is it's all up to the training staff right now. And then it was really good to see DeAndre Swift back on the practice field. Declan Doyle was asked if they want a carbon copy of what they saw from DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monangai last week. This week, he said every week it's going to be a little bit different. But I think with what you saw from the two of them and the production they had in the ground game, that if that can carry your way throughout the season, it does buy Caleb Williams some time.
Great job as always, Cassie. We will see you tomorrow for Bears Blitz.
See you, Lou.
All right, Cassie Carlson joining us from Hallis Hall. We will hear from Charles Oakley, the former Bull, longtime New York Knick, who is no longer allowed in Madison Square Garden, coming up later. Plus, our guy Nick Costas from BetMGM. He's here to make us all a little bit of money before the weekend. And he's going to talk about the breaking news of gambling, game fixing, and arrests made earlier today by the FBI tied to the NBA. Keep it right here on CST. Welcome back to Chicago Sports Tonight. Lou Canellis with you. Let's welcome in Nick Costas from BetMGM, and You Better You Bet. So much to talk about today, Nick. Trailblazers coach Chauncey Billups and Heat guard Terry Rozier arrested today for their part in illegal sports betting and rigged poker games backed by the Mafia. Can't even believe I'm saying that. Both placed on leave, that is, by their teams. According to the indictment, Nick, let's talk about Rozier. Rozier was compensated for sharing private information that affected the outcome of games. Do you think legalized gambling is at fault here?
Not only do I not think legalized gambling is at fault, and just to preface what I'm about to say, like, yes, BetMGM sponsors my show, and I am an ambassador for BetMGM, but in no way, shape, or form am I carrying water for sportsbooks here. Like, I'm telling the truth, and I think this is kind of indisputable. Legalized sports betting brings things like this to light. So, operators like BetMGM or like a FanDuel or a DraftKings, when they notice like these patterns of like ridiculous amounts of money being bet on these small markets, they can flag it. And if sports betting were not legal, it would be way harder for the FBI and the government to be able to figure this out. And the idea, and Lou, I appreciate the question, and a lot of people are saying this, the idea that legalized sports betting is to blame for this almost implies that nothing like this went on before sports betting became legal. And obviously, like, we all know that that's not true. I am not trying to say that sports betting is without its faults. Obviously, it is when done irresponsibly, and encourage people, if you have issues with problem gaming, to call 1-800-GAMBLER. But the idea that legalized sports betting is to blame for this, I think is ridiculous. I think it's on the individual himself, and I think actually sports betting being illegal made it easier for him to be caught if indeed these allegations are true.
All right, Nick, but I want you to respond to someone who would differ with your opinion and say, yeah, I get it, but the popularity of player prop bets makes it easier for a player to go out there and make mistakes, not hit shots purposely, turn over the basketball purposely. And because it's part of legalized gambling, and because it's become so popular on legalized gambling websites, it's easier for players like this to pull that off. Respond.
I would say that people generally, in all walks of life, with anything, are always looking for an edge. So is it surprising that people are trying to exploit what you're saying, player props in sports betting? Is that a surprise? No. This is human nature. This happens in any walk of life with anything. What I would say now is, now that there are a bunch, and I'm sure more will come out, I'm not naive as to think otherwise, but the thought now, if you're a young NBA player, knowing what you know, that guys are getting caught. And if it's proven that Terry Rozier is guilty, like Jonte Porter was, like, he's going to be banned for life. He's never going to play in the NBA again. My sense is that this will be a significant enough deterrent, because guys are going to get caught, because with legalized sports betting comes an extra set of eyes on the bets that are being placed. And when you have these extreme irregularities, they're going to get flagged. And now the FBI is involved. I don't want to speak for all the young men out there in the NBA or in other sports, or the young women out there as well. But if I'm one of these people and I'm seeing what's happening today, at the very least, I'm thinking twice about it. That's my opinion on how this is going to shake out in the future. Okay, so that makes sense. But now, remember, in Rozier's case, this is something that they've been investigating since, 2022, 2023. Do you think because of legalized gambling
that this is just the tip of the iceberg and we are going to see more indictments coming out against athletes?
I would imagine that the answer to that question is yes. To what extent? I'm not sure. But it would be naive to think that if Terry Rozier, again, I just talked about human nature being what it is. If Terry Rozier's doing it and Jonte Porter's doing it and other players could potentially be doing it, like, why can't others? So if I had to bet, right, like, do I think that more players could be implicated? I think yes would be the safe bet there.
Let's get into your picks. First, college football. Give me a favorite.
All right, let's go to the Big Ten and take the points with the Minnesota Golden Gophers on the road at Iowa. Hawkeyes anywhere from an 8.5 to a 9-point home favorite in this game. Minnesota star running back Darius Taylor is back and healthy. He looked great for them last week. And this is really, Lou, you've got a big favorite in Iowa, and you've got two teams that play really exceptionally slow on offense, potential weather in the forecast. And when you have that, it does make the dog inherently valuable. And Minnesota, one of their best players, the running back Taylor, is healthy. Ergo, let's take the points with Minnesota, plus the 8.5, plus the 9 on Saturday at Iowa.
All right, let's go to the NFL. Are the Carolina Panthers catching the Buffalo Bills at the wrong time or the right time?
Oh, I think it's the right time. Woo! And that's even with Buffalo, Lou, coming out of the bye. I think the Bills are not screwed in the sense that they're going to miss the playoffs. I still think the Bills are a playoff team. Buffalo likely to win the AFC East still. But this is a defense that has major problems, and I don't think they can fix these problems.
What about the Bears game?
So we'll see who ends up playing in this game for Chicago, who ends up playing in the game for Baltimore. Obviously, we're doing this before the final injury reports come out. But if this goes the way I think it's going to go, which is basically everyone's back for the Ravens, including starting quarterback Lamar Jackson, my sense is this will close at least Baltimore as a 7-point favorite. As we do this right now, the spread is 6.5. So I do think that the spread will go up. And if and when that happens, I would actually be willing to place a bet on the Bears to at least keep the game close. Maybe not win, but keep the game close. And Lou, the handicap behind that school of thought is Baltimore's defense is terrible with or without all these players that are coming back. It was bad before they got hurt. It was bad when they were hurt. And I think it'll be bad when they come back. I trust Ben Johnson to scheme it up, at least score enough to keep Chicago inside the number. I'll take the Bears plus the points. I don't want to bet it now. I think we'll get a better number in between now and Sunday.
If I believe in the Bears, and I want the Bears on the money line because I think they're going to win their 5th game this season, 5th in a row, by the way. What's the number?
Ooh, so Chicago on the money line, I can tell you, and you will get a better price as we approach Sunday. We are currently sitting plus 230, so a $100 bet, just to use a round number, would pay you $230 if the Bears won. I think you'll get better odds on that bet approaching Sunday again. Once it's officially announced that Lamar Jackson is playing, there will be a bump up towards the Baltimore Ravens. We'll close at least 7, and you'll get more value on that bet, Lou, of the Bears to win the game outright.
That's what I love about you, Nick. You're always looking out for my best interest, for ways for Lou to make money.
That's what it's all about, man. Listen, you have me on your show. If I'm not making you money, you kick me out, you get somebody else. So let's line your pockets a little bit here with some green.
Nick, as always, great info. Thanks ahead of time for making us cash. We will talk to you next week. Up next, we're going to catch up with Charles Oakley, who talks about his time with the Bulls and Knicks, which teammates are no longer friends, and what happened that night at Madison Square Garden that led him to being banned indefinitely. We'll be right back. Lou Canellis back here on Chicago Sports Tonight. Yesterday, we ran one of our conversations with former Bulls enforcer Charles Oakley. Oak in town to feed the homeless, the hungry, promoting Oak Out Hunger and Predict 5 in his fight against hunger. Oakley is still loved in this city of Chicago, despite only playing 3 seasons with the Bulls before he got traded to the Knicks. I sat down with Oakley, who opened up about Knicks teammates who are no longer friends, and that one night at Madison Square Garden that led to Oakley being banned from the world's greatest arena. Do you remember those battles with the Bulls in the 90s?
Yeah.
What do you remember about those battles?
Well, I remember every time we walk in Chicago Stadium, we down 6 points, and we lose by 2 or 3. So I figure, like, if we would have 0-0, we had a better chance of beating them. But it's the mindset when you play the Bulls. Phil Jackson, one of them coaches that press the team. He'll throw some at you. If you don't react quick enough, they up 20 points.
Yeah.
That's what they was feeding off their crowd. Michael hit a couple of threes. Scotty getting a couple of dunks. Dennis Rodman dived in the stand, and ain't no ball in the stand. He just dived just to, get the crowd going. So that's what his ways are, bringing energy to the game.
Come on, man. You had a great 19-year career, didn't you?
I appreciate it. Yeah. Well, everybody always go by a lot of numbers. I didn't get a lot of shots. When you play with Michael Jordan, Orlando Woods, Quentin Daly, all these guys, ain't but so many shots. And then when I went to New York, I just tried to be a leader for us, like, a guy who not just a scorer, just on and off the court, make sure the guys was okay around me. And that's what I did. Chicago, make sure Mike was okay. Went to New York, Patriot, Vince in Toronto.
Do you still follow the Knicks?
Yeah, I follow the Knicks.
Where are you living now these days?
I'm back and forth in Atlanta and New York. And I follow the Knicks. I had a bad incident with the owner up there.
Yeah, I was going to say, does Mr. Dolan allow you to come back to Madison Square Garden?
I don't go. I haven't been there in 8 years. I go past.
Not since the ordeal.
No.
What the heck happened?
He just don't like me.
Has the commissioner done anything about what happened?
The commissioner is soft, and it's a soft league. And New York's a big market, but this guy, like they say, he a repeat guy. He keep doing stuff over and over, but right now I'm in court, so we're waiting on the judge making the jury trial. Hope that we can go in front of the jury. The jury can see that this man's a bad guy, and we go from there. Boy,
it has to hurt a little bit, because I know you see video of guys like Patrick and Larry Johnson with the Knicks going on that run last year. You belong there. I belong there, but them guys never had my back. That's one thing. That's something that really hurt me. I don't give Larry Johnson and some of them other guys, because me and Patrick probably the only two guys played in New York 10 years or longer. So I put the pressure on Patrick because I played beside him. I had his back. When it's time for him to have my back, he walked away. He didn't make a comment. I had other guys from other teams comment about, man, you okay, this and that. They were speaking, guys I went to, Reggie Miller, Brad Daugherty, all these other guys on teams I went to war with were speaking up for me instead of the guys I played with. So they sold for a check, but I can't respect them guys, and I can't be around them guys. So I just stay away because I know that, once you just sell me out like that, why should I be around? And I sacrifice my game for Patrick. I sacrifice other things for the team. I sacrifice other things for the city. And the city got my back, other things, but none of my teammates said nothing about this. Boy, that's something. But Doc Rivers, and he was coaching the LA Clippers. He said he would have came over there. But Chris Childs. But I put everything in Patrick because I sacrificed my game for him to play. Have you talked to him about it? He won't call me. He won't call you back? No. He won't call me. He didn't call me when it happened. No kidding. So he's one of them guys. He's hard to deal with. I mean, he's not a good teammate. Not a good friend. No, he's not. I mean, MJ and this and that. MJ's, well, that's leave Patrick alone. I'm like, no, I probably could have did more for the team, but I didn't mind because Patrick was our main guy. Back then, the game was more controlled. I didn't mind diving for the ball, taking the charge as being his weak side help guy. But now, when I need some help, I can't get none of that back, the energy back I gave him. I'm going to finish with this. MJ or LeBron? Like I tell you, it's a cockpit. It's a captain and co-pilot. MJ, LeBron. That's been my whole thing for 20, 30 years to ask me a question. I always said MJ, then LeBron. In my book, I do like 2 chapters go back. It's like a Joe Frazier Ali fight. Ali is MJ, Joe Frazier is LeBron. Hey, man, this was a pleasure. You are the man. Thank you. It's been a long time. That's going to put a wrap on Chicago sports tonight. Thanks to Charles Oakley, Nick Costas from BetMGM, and Cassie Carlson. No show tomorrow because of Game 1 of the World Series. We will see you Sunday night at 10 o'clock for Chicago Sports Tonight and a full recap of the Bears-Ravens game. Have a good night. See ya.